Hey everybody, this is George and my partner here, Mike, with Alliance, and we're here today to deliver the G2 On Demand. We're doing these virtual training programs throughout the winter, and they'll be live for you to watch on demand at any time. I'm sure you've seen them in our education portal, alliance.com/education. That's where we get all the information. So we're excited to present to you today, and we'll kick things off with a brief thank you for your nearly 2 decades of business. And in our way of saying thanks, we wanted to give away some prizes, Mike. That's what we always do this time of year. So we've got some cool stuff we're giving away. Ryan, let's throw that up here. And Mike, what do we got?
Well, we're giving away some great things this year. We have a Yeti backflip cooler. Keep all your drinks cold, I guess.
Yep.
A couple of $50 Amazon gift cards, 5 Yeti tumbler mugs, and
the Insomnia cookies. That's new this year.
yeah, that one's fun. Get some cookies in the mail. Everyone likes cookies.
Fantastic. Good. Well, we're excited about that. We've got some great prizes, and we've got a great program for you here today. So let's get right to it. Today's program, Mike, is about our G2. So what's the history on this?
Well, G2 Polymeric Sands came about because the industry was demanding a cleaner, easier to install polymeric sand.
Yep.
Pavers got better. You know,
They sure
pavers
did,
used
yeah.
to be 4x8s and those octagons with the tail on them. You got
Yeah.
one color, one texture, but now you've got big slabs, crazy surface texture that mimics natural stone. You have all these color blends, so we need to make sure that polymeric sand highlights and accents these pavers and doesn't detract from them.
Yeah, the color blending that the paver manufacturers are doing now is unbelievable. So when the polymeric sand of the old days used to kind of mute that out, we had to go way past that and really deliver, make sure those vibrant colors that you started with look the same way after a poly sand job.
Right, and we know everybody else is trying to improve efficiency, right? Get jobs done faster, make sure they keep an eye on their bottom line. So G2 is a faster installation process than traditional polymeric sands.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that here in a minute. That's one of the great benefits of G2 is the faster efficiency and all that good stuff. So let's get right to it. Let's talk about the benefits of G2. There are 4 key benefits. The first one being
no dust, right?
Yep.
I think no dust is probably the biggest benefit. Who wants a big cloud of dust in their face? We don't. You don't. OSHA doesn't want you to be breathing in those crystalline silica particles. So we eliminated the dust from G2. It's a special proprietary process that neutralizes those dust particles and makes sure they're not going to become airborne while you're trying to install the product.
Yeah, that's key. That OSHA compliance is a big thing. All our products being OSHA compliant. We'll touch on that too with some of the labels. Another big benefit that I want to hit on here is that haze-free. We talk about muting the colors. The haze was a big part of that.
Right. You know, traditionally you would install your pavers, they'd look beautiful and vibrant, and then if you didn't follow the directions on the polymeric sand, you ran the risk of causing the color to mute out and look a little bit white.
Right.
G2 is designed to be even more user-friendly, a little bit more error-proof, and very, very clean. So dust-free and also haze-free. It's not going to turn those pavers white.
Yeah, and a lot of the benefit really of both being the dust-free and the haze-free comes with the manufacturing process, right?
Correct. You know, neutralizing those dust particles, using clear polymers. We make sure that you're going to get a product that makes your job look good and makes you look good, even if, hey, maybe you cut a few corners on that installation process. Not that that's okay.
You're right, right. Speaking of cutting corners here, we got this no blower thing, and I know we've got differing opinions there because I come from the sales marketing side. You've got an installation background, but from a sales and marketing standpoint, this product is clean enough to install with no blower. That's really fascinating.
Right, it's pretty amazing. You can sweep the surface almost perfectly clean enough to eat off of, at least for me, maybe not for your picky tastes, but it is amazing. I personally think that a blower is a great tool to efficiently and effectively clean off the surface, set your joint height, and make your job go much faster.
Yeah, sure. And we'll get on that when we get to the installation too. The difference between just hitting it with a broom versus maybe a little more efficient with the blower and getting some of those, changes in texture too, nice and clean.
Yep.
So, and then the last benefit here is where the efficiency really comes from.
Well, efficiency and simplicity, right?
Yeah.
Polymeric sand industry has changed instructions through the years. We first said mist it once lightly and walk away. Then we said do a 3-step watering process. Now we're down to 1 watering. So it's easy to remember, it's easy to do on the job site, and it saves you time.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll get really into that when we talk about that. And I think there's some key tips on the watering aspect of it. And then we had G2, we launched G2 with all those great benefits, the no dust, the no haze, the one watering, no blower, and then about a year later, we came out with something that was pretty cool too, this rapid set technology.
Well, we're always making things better at Alliance. That's what we do, right? That's why it's exciting to work here, and it's exciting to bring these products to you. And rapid set technology is no exception, right? Our products used to be rain safe in 1 hour. Now with the rapid set technology, we're rain safe in 15 minutes.
Which is really cool. With Mother Nature, you're trying to wrap up a job. You don't know whether that storm's coming. 15 minutes gives you plenty of time to get something in and be protected with the peace of mind that that sand's not going anywhere.
Right. And even though we say 15 minutes, I've seen it much faster.
No kidding. It's pretty impressive. So, and like all of these, the best thing to do is seeing is believing. So if you don't believe us, talk to your sales rep and they could give you a live demo and show you how effective this is.
Yep. And then you can see up there on that same slide, we're OSHA compliant, so we talked about that.
Yep.
When you install our products, we've tested to ensure that you are going to be below the limits for respirable crystalline silica in an 8-hour workday.
Yeah. That's a big buzzword right now. That RCS is really key. We wanted to make sure that our products are clean and, more importantly, safe to use out on the job site. So that's a big factor. And then talk about that ASTM spec.
Well, ASTM C144 is a gradation spec, so it means that we have a certain particle size distribution in our polymeric sands, and that's key because we don't want those super fine particles that are dusty.
Right.
We eliminated those, and we don't want really large particles that are going to be difficult to sweep into the joints.
Yeah.
So ASTM C144 is really the ideal gradation for a polymeric sand.
Sure. And it all comes down to what we're talking about here, the colors from the manufacturers. Alliance had to step up, too, and make sure that our colors are the best in the industry.
Right. I remember when the only thing you could get was beige polymeric sand, right? Followed quickly by gray, ivory, and black diamond. So we have some really amazing, beautiful, vibrant colors, and these can really accent a paver job.
Yeah, and you can see it right there on the screen, the difference, the same color paver, exact same pavers, the different look you get with these different color sands. And if you haven't done so yet, check out our website because we have this cool little color chooser where you can select the type of paver style that you want and then change out the joint sand color. And it's pretty cool. It's a great tool to show possibly a homeowner when you're trying to sell poly sand to them.
Yep.
So, and then the last benefit I want to touch on is that warranty. Best in the industry.
Well, we believe in our products.
Absolutely.
Our polymeric sands work, and they work better than anyone else's, so we back it up with the 15-year warranty.
Yep, absolutely. Right on the bag and all that good stuff. So now we talk about G2. It is a premium product, so there is an upgrade to it. We go around the country when there's not COVID issues around, and we're constantly doing training, and we're getting feedback from contractors, and we always ask, what's the average size job that they do?
Well, most contractors tell us that 500 square feet's a pretty typical job for them.
Yep, and that would be about eight bags of our polymeric sand to cover that, right?
Right.
So what you're talking about here is 8 bags on a job to get you into a product, our G2, that is probably twice as better than any other product out there with all those benefits. What does that really translate to in terms of total cost of materials?
Yeah, you're not talking about much, maybe $25, $30 on a job that, must be $2,500, $3,000 in material?
Absolutely. And that's really just not even moving the needle in the overall project cost, because if the cost of material is only a third of the job and you're only adding $25, $30 maybe to it, your overall cost of the job really hasn't changed.
Not only that, but you're buying yourself some peace of mind, right? Rapid set technology, you don't have to worry about the rain, haze-free, it's perfectly clear polymers, dust-free, you're not worrying about any material left on the surface, so really worth the upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely, and warranty, all that good stuff. So,
I mean, heck, I've got a $5 cup that works pretty well, but people love those Yeti mugs we're giving away.
Yeah,
so sometimes that upgrade is worth it.
Yep, for sure. So let's get into the installation now. I think that's what people really want to see. So there's 2 big things that we always talk about with installation. One is the compaction, and 2 is that 30 for 30 watering. So we're going to get to those, but what's our first step here when we talk about a paver job? What do we have going on here?
Well, right now we have a small little pad installed on Gator base.
Cool.
Right? We have a little seat wall on here. Seat walls are new for Gator base. Excellent option. You can put those small seat walls, 12 inches wide up to 18 inches high, directly on Gator base. So tune in to our next Gator base video and get a little bit of knowledge there. So now that we have our pavers installed, we are going to take a look at the polymeric sand itself. So comes in a very heavy-duty 7 mil plastic bag. These bags are tough.
They
are.
You
don't have a knife, you're not getting inside.
No, definitely not. But that's great on a job site. You can bang it around a little bit, and again, peace of mind that you know it's going to be a good product inside.
Right. Well, speaking of peace of mind, we actually have waterproof bags and a special drainage system built into them so that we make sure that you leave a couple bags in the back of your truck, they're going to be fine after a little light shower.
Right, which is key because, again, the rain is very unpredictable, so nice benefit.
All right, so we're going to cut this open, and we are going to spread some polymeric sand out on our pavers here.
All right, let's do it.
You have to make sure that you have a dry surface, right? You always want to have a dry surface to put your sand down.
Yep. Nice, clean. Boy, that is unbelievable. The no dust aspect, really an improvement on the product.
And it's a nice rich gray color. You know, it's not that half beige, half gray that you
salt and pepper.
sometimes
That's a
see.
Nice dark gray there. So, Mike, we always talk about tools. It amazes me. You go to a job site, you see somebody with the beautiful F-250 King Ranch that they spend $50,000, $60,000 on, more than that in some cases, and the broom looks like it came from World War II. What's the importance of the right tools on the job?
Well, the right tools can make or break a job.
Yeah.
So, you know, certainly worth spending a few bucks to keep decent brooms around and have the right equipment. We'll talk about some of the equipment that can make your polymeric sand installs a little bit more foolproof and efficient.
And the type of broom you're using here as you do this initial sweep is
It's a fairly coarse push broom. So we're going to start with a fairly coarse push broom, very efficient to move the material around the surface. So often helps to work from a couple different angles.
Get it into all those joints. You're going to push that around with a nice hard bristle broom.
But because of the gradation, that C144 gradation that Alliance has, the sand flows into the joints very easily. Now you can see I'm leaving a fair amount of material on the surface because we are going to compact. And as we compact, the joint height is actually going to drop quite a bit.
Yeah, that's one of the most amazing things with that, which we'll show here in a second. But the compaction aspect of the sand, not Alliance sand and not polymeric sands, but any joint sand is such a critical part of the job. In fact, it's one of the key elements that ICPI preaches about too in paver installations is you have to compact that joint material. And Mike's going to get a hand tamp out here, kind of demonstrate what we were talking about here with the compaction. So let's take a look at that. So as you compact it, if we could get over closer to that GoPro image there, you really see what happens when you compact. That joint material really drops down into the joint, which is a good thing. That's what we want to happen. It's dropping in that joint, and we're not done here. We're going to come back and sweep again and do another compaction and make sure that that joint material is deep into the joint, nice and tight into the joint, and really help with the success of the installation. So, Ryan, if you would throw that graphic up here, this is a key for us, is that image you see on the left-hand side is reflecting a joint that's been properly filled. And the image that you see on the right-hand side is what happens after compaction. And what's happening there is your sand is dropping, as you saw here when Mike was compacting, about 30 to 50% into that joint. So then you need to re-sweep and fill that joint back up to get the adequate amount of poly sand in your joint. So speaking of compaction, what Mike and I want to show you here is some different materials that are emerging trends in the industry. So what do we have here, Mike?
Well, everyone knows that your traditional install is crushed stone and a sand setting bed underneath concrete pavers, right?
Sure.
New trend in the industry is a chip stone base.
Hybrid
permeable, permeable installs. They're called different names around the country, but we're seeing a trend towards that sand bedding layer being replaced with a chip stone.
Right. And some key benefits really in terms of efficiencies that you might want to touch on with that.
Right. So no structural benefit. Sand works very well. Chip works very well. But you can screed chip out in the rain. You know, it's a little bit easier to work with in some respects and move around.
Yep.
Doesn't require quite as much compaction, so a few different benefits to that chip stone, and that's why it's growing in popularity.
Right. But I know with that comes some challenges, particularly with polymeric sand, one of which is that choking factor. So talk about that.
Right. So as we compact, we're driving that polymeric sand down, right? We're making it denser. It hits the bottom of a sand setting bed layer, or the top of a sand setting bed layer, and it can't go anywhere, right? So it becomes densely packed and fills the joint. With chipstone, it needs to migrate into that void space a little bit and choke off to the point where it stops migrating downward.
Right.
The problem is certain chipstones will stop migrating downward or choke off. Certain stones won't.
Yeah. And that's a big thing with this chip install is you really want to talk to your suppliers and make sure you get the right aggregates. Let's show them the dangers of using the wrong aggregates.
Right. So one thing that we see every now and then is a layer of pea gravel as the setting bed. So instead of using an angular crushed stone, people are using kind of round river rock.
Yeah.
So throw some polymeric sand on top of that round river rock there.
If we fill up our joint here.
All right, so we have some sand sitting there. And as we compact, as we vibrate, as this project is used over time, all of that polymeric sand migrated right through the river rock down to the bottom. So if we had a polymeric sand joint, which typically forms a crust. Polymeric sand joints are not hard top to bottom. The crust might be a ½ inch thick, it might be an inch thick. And that crust is supported by densely packed material underneath.
Right.
If that densely packed material underneath disappears like it just did in that round aggregate, you've got a crust supported by nothing.
Not much stability in that joint, that's for sure.
Next up,
this looks a little better. I would say this is pretty close to what we would want to see.
Yes, this is definitely better, but still not perfect.
Okay.
What we have here is probably a mix of a ½ inch to a 3/8 inch angular aggregate. So angular is good. We want angular, but we want slightly smaller aggregate than this. This is a little bit too big, a little bit too much void space. So as you install that polymeric sand,
I'm guessing we're going to see a similar problem. Let's see.
You'll see that also migrate down quite a bit. Now, not as bad as the round stone, but still, that would be a problem over time for a polymeric sand.
Right, right. So now I think we've got the magic formula here. What is this stone?
All right, so this is a number 9 stone. It's a 1/4 inch chip, so 1/4 inch being smaller than the river rock, being smaller than that angular aggregate that we just tested. We're going to pour the sand in here, and you're going to see that it chokes off very well and just does not migrate downward.
Yeah, that other piece there, they say 1/4 inch, but I saw ½ inch pieces in there, so. Yeah, much better. So you really see a good sort of separation there with that chip holding it, where that choking factor is such a big thing. We want to make sure that the right material there is choking off the poly sand so it's not migrating down into that bedding layer and underneath it.
Right, so you want to make sure you're getting a number 9 stone for your bedding material. If you're working with number 8s, something larger, you may have migration issues with polymeric sand. One of our new products, Gator Nitro, might be a great thing to consider, which we'll touch on later.
Fixes a lot of that, absolutely. Good. The other part of installations, or the other type of installation that we just want to touch on before we get back to the demo, is that overlay. The concrete overlay is also pretty popular in certain markets.
Right, it overlays a great foundation for concrete pavers, but comes with some challenges.
Sure does.
ICPI recognizes that a concrete overlay still needs to have some drainage incorporated into it.
Yeah, and it always amazes me when we've been on job sites, tons of those, and you talk about the drainage holes that are required, and it blows me away what's really required per the ICPI standards.
Right, most contractors think that if they put 2 or 3 little holes in a 500 square foot job, they're good to go. Yeah,
and if you see on screen here, that picture there really tells a story. That's a 1/4 for your reference there, and you could see, commonly we might see somebody lucky enough to drill some holes, which you see on the right side, a 1/4 inch or maybe a ½ inch, and then you get to the what you really need is that core drill, and you can see how much water is really going to go down in that scenario.
Right. So hopefully we can get guys that are putting in a sufficient quantity of those core drilled holes, making sure that the water is going to escape from underneath a project when they do a concrete overlay.
Right. And lastly is equipment with compaction. So this traditional plate compactor is what a lot of guys use. It'll certainly get the compaction done, but what are the dangers of using something like this, Mike?
Well, for a traditional plate compactor like that, you have to make sure that you use a poly pad.
Yep.
So that's going to protect the surface of the pavers to some degree. But you could still scuff some highly textured pavers or even break larger slabs. These large slabs that are becoming popular, 24 by 24s, 24 by 36s. I mean, these are big pieces of concrete.
Right.
And if you break one, well,
that steel plate's going to destroy those. So this is what we're seeing more and more of now. This is a roller compactor.
Right. This is the right tool to install polymeric sand. No question about that.
And let's get a quick shot of what it looks like underneath just to show these guys. So you've got these set of rollers under here. If we will get a quick shot of that. And these are all, independent rollers. And you probably can't see from the camera, but you can push into this. It does have like a soft polyurethane material around it. So that roller compactor is going to really push the sand down in through vibratory process, right?
Right. So it provides that vibration necessary to consolidate the sand with much gentler force imparted to the overall project. So you can use this safely on textured pavers, large format pavers. You can use this on natural stone. So you get the proper compaction for your joints no matter what product you're working with.
All right. Time to get back to work here, Mike. So we left off, we did an initial sweep on this, we started compacting, and you can really see, Ryan showed some tight shots of this, you can really see that sand migrating down after compaction. So you're going to come back, move that material around. I notice you switched brooms.
Yep. We're going to use a finer bristle broom for this second sweeping. So I'm going to sweep the material back over, make sure the joints are filled up.
Okay.
And then this finer bristle broom is going to help us get a cleaner surface than that stiff, coarse bristle broom would.
Yep, and that's where I think we really see the difference in cleaning off the surface. We've got a textured paver here, and that overhead shot that Ryan was just showing really shows the dangers. Let's go back to that overhead for a second, Ryan. You can see here, Mike, before you sweep this off, you get a lot of sand in the voids and the little valleys of the texture of the pavers, so it's key to really take your time sweeping that off, or Mike, in your case, I know you like the tools, you'll get out your blower and clean it off that way.
Yep, I can certainly get this job done faster with a blower than I can with a broom, so we will do that.
All right, good. So I think what you're doing here, Mike, is you've got this all nice and cleaned off, but the joint heights, I noticed there's a lot of sand coming up the joints. What's the real way to do this with the joint heights?
Well, Ryan, can you switch over to that GoPro real quick? So you can see here, this joint is pretty full. It's kind of flush with the surface. It's kind of ramping up both sides of the paver there. That joint is overfilled. We need to make sure that we're working with an area, an 1/8 of an inch below the chamfer there.
Yeah, you can really see that, Mike. If you go to this area here, you really see that that's actually coming up onto the surface here. That's overfilled, right?
Right. We need to be more like that.
That's the look you want. You want to be able to see the bottom of the chamfer, don't you?
Right.
All right. And I think, Ryan, if you could throw that graphic up here, let's get a actual what that's supposed to be, official position on that. Your sand joint height should be at least 1/8 of an inch below that chamfer line. So that's the right joint height. And again, I get out at a lot of job sites, talk to a lot of contractors, and from time to time I hear, well, the homeowner wanted it filled up and spilling all over the joints, out of the joints, I should say. And I think our job as professionals is to educate that homeowner and make sure they understand that they're going to void their warranty. If sand is over the joint height and spilling out onto the surface, that's really going to void the warranty. So the joint height is critical. That 1/8 of an inch below the surface is really something that must be maintained. And Mike, there's some reasons for that. It's not just because we felt, hey, this is what it should be, but walk us through the reasons behind that.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, it looks better.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different opinion, but I think
Sure.
it looks better. Polymeric sands need to be 1/8 of an inch below that chamfer or the edge of the paver. for a couple of different reasons. One is watering.
Yeah.
We need a valley for the water to gather to properly activate polymeric sands.
Okay.
Second, we need to make sure that polymeric sands aren't going to swell up above the surface of the pavers when we activate them, because when polymeric sands get wet, they expand slightly.
Okay.
Right? So we got to make sure that that's not going to expand above the surface there. And then we want to make sure that it's not subject to physical damage.
Okay.
Pavers are tough. They're made out of concrete. Polymeric sand is tough, but not quite as tough as a paver. So people walking across it, cars driving across it, that actual abrasion and that force is not good for a polymeric sand joint.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that that sand's recessed below. It's not directly taking tire traffic. It's not directly taking foot traffic, because like Mike said, that's not designed to do that.
Exactly. It's designed to be a cohesive joint material, not concrete.
Awesome. Well, you got this thing nice and clean, no blower, I might add. And so I think we're ready for some watering.
Yep, we certainly are. Can you grab that hose?
Absolutely. So we got our hose right here.
All right, so we're working with something about, what, 3 foot by 5 foot?
I would say that looks like about right.
So we have 15 square feet, and what's our rule of thumb?
Our rule of thumb here is 30 for 30. So we want to water 30 seconds for every 30 square feet. So we're about half that, Mike. You're the math guy. What's that mean?
I guess I'll do about 15 seconds here, right?
All right.
So we're going to water. You'd always start from your lowest area to your higher areas.
Yep.
Now, watering until you see a little bit of buildup, a little bit of water retention is appropriate.
Yep. And here's the magic question that we always get. So that's about 15 seconds for what we have here. And the magic question that we always get is, and you can see, I think, some of the, is that foaming, if you will. That is our surfactant, which is a big fancy word, but what's that mean?
Oh, everyone always tells me that that's the polymer going to leave a haze.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, that white foam is a surfactant.
Yeah.
That's basically a chemical similar to soap that's added to the mixture to help suck that water down deeper into the joint.
Great. And what that does then is helps activate the deeper joint with the polymers inside the joint.
Exactly. We're watering it once because rapid set is rapid set. It starts repelling water very quickly. So we need to water it once in one shot, get that water to suck down deep into the joint, and it's going to start becoming rain safe very quickly.
Yeah. So really, that's it at this point. If you wanted to, you do see some, with the textured paver like this, you do see some water into the different valleys of the joints. If you wanted to, you could take a blower and push that out, but not necessary.
Right, I would, but it's definitely not a necessary step.
Yep. And that surfactant with the, the clear polymers that we're using, not going to leave any residue or anything. It's going to dry clear. So this is what you have, and we're done with this.
Yep.
Awesome. So the G2 has those great benefits. It's a quick install. It's something that you could bang out with your job site. It's got some efficiencies on it, and it has the flexibility. So a lot of great benefits with G2 in terms of performance.
Certainly.
Absolutely. So that would conclude our program for today. What we want to do is remind you of a couple of things before we send you off here. Number one, I think you got here through our education portal. So we've got some great on-demand programming coming up throughout the winter months, and then they'll be live throughout the rest of the year. Ryan, bring up the graphic if these guys want to see some text alerts. We have a way to make sure that you stay connected with us and get some quick text alerts. It's real simple, alliancegator.com/text, and we'll send you maybe about once a week this time of year because there's a lot of education programs that we're offering, but we want to make sure that you're connected to Alliance and hopefully can take advantage of those. And then lastly, Mike, one of the upcoming programs that we're going to have available on demand is for that new Nitro product.
Yeah, Nitro is a fantastic product. It's completely different than polymeric sand, even though it's also a joining material.
Yep.
Nitro is an air-cured resin-based material. So instead of sweeping in dry and activating with water, this stuff is pre-mixed. It goes in the joints, and it's reacting as soon as it touches oxygen.
Yeah, it's a great product. It comes with some, unique features, unlike poly sand, but we got some great programming that we'll talk to you about Nitro. We've got some upcoming programs on tools to get deeper into the roller compactor and the chip installations and things like that. So stay tuned. Keep checking out that education portal. And Mike and I are going to sign off, and we'll leave you with a little teaser for that upcoming Nitro program. So Ryan, let's roll the video. And again, thank you for your time.